Is Legally Speaking right here on Lookuptv. Thursdays right here we talk law matters, and tonight we talk impersonation. The dictionary defines it as the action of pretending to be someone else for entertainment or fraud purposes. I'll be speaking to an advocate of the High Court tonight, Kipchumba Nyorsok, will help me to unpack this offense in the penal code, which is referred to as a personation offense. And of course, bring in your comments and your feedback. Will be some of that. What are your concerns in light of the case that is in court of Brian Mwende, who is alleged to be a fake advocate? Who is a fake advocate? We'll be knowing all that right here on this show. Welcome. And welcome, Kipchumba.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're talking about Kipchumba Nyorsok, advocate of the High Court.
Yes.
That is your title.
Yes.
What makes an advocate? We hear lawyers and advocates.
Yes, that's a very, very, very wonderful question. And I think that's where we need to start from.
Right.
What is the difference between a lawyer and what is the difference between a lawyer and an advocate? And who are these two people? These two terms are different in our jurisdiction. A lawyer is a person who has graduated with an LLB degree.
That means a law degree.
A law degree.
Okay.
Say that if now you've graduated with a law degree, then that makes you now a candidate for the second step, which is now to become an advocate. So an advocate is a person who has undergone what is called ATP, the Advocate Training Program, that is offered by the government of Kenya. But of course, after meeting the qualifications of having an LLB degree, then you join into that program. It's offered right now at the Kenya School of Law. It's called the Advocate. It's a diploma that is being offered. It's a one-year course.
Right.
And then after there, you proceed to what we now call pupillage, whereby you are supposed to be supervised by an advocate who has practiced for over 5 years. And then from there, then there's a waiting period whereby you await to be admitted into the bar. And it's normally a very big event. It's normally done in the presence of the Chief Justice. Yes. And that's where now you see somebody wearing some gowns and some black robes.
And the wig.
And the wig, yes. And some and the collar that we normally wear. So that process of being an advocate is called being admitted to the bar.
Right.
So once you've taken an oath of admission to the bar and you sign what we call the role of advocates, then you become an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Right.
But that advocate, after signing, you're supposed to renew your certificate. You're supposed to apply for a certificate, and it's subject to annual renewal after every 1 year.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be coming to those finer details.
Yes.
So then, a lawyer, you know, this is a case that has taken the country by storm.
Yeah.
People are like, he has practiced.
Yes.
Then the cases.
Yeah.
He has represented a couple of cases. We can't substantiate if there are 26 cases, as has been alleged. But then, who then gets to represent a client in court?
Wonderful. So once you've graduated with an LLB degree, you are not allowed to appear in any court of law until and when you become an advocate.
Right.
So
graduating from a law degree is not enough for you to be in court?
It's not enough for you to be in court. It's just enough for you now to start the process of being admitted to the bar.
Right.
So you can do other things, but you cannot do advocacy stuff like now becoming an advocate. So you can perhaps, I can see some, they do lectures, some of them are lecturers, some of them are into NGOs, but they cannot appear in court of law. So an advocate is the only person who can appear in a court of law. Right. Yes.
And we are talking about impersonation.
Yes.
But before we continue, we took a few views from the streets of Nairobi just to get to understand what Kenyans know about impersonation. Can we have that, Director?
Mimi kama Mkenya anaitwa Zadok Ochieng, huyo kijana anaweza kumpatia pongezi mingi sana. alafu baadaye tena upande wa kotini ama judiciary tunasindwa alipenya namna gani na akaweza kufanya hiyo kazi bila kutambulika mapema, lakini tunaweza sema ni neema ya Mungu.
Kwa majina ni Masi. Kulingana na mimi, Brian wanasema ati ni fake, sijui lawyer ni nini. Si inasemekana amesimamia vitu kama 26 cases. So as for me, mimi sioni issue. Juu amekuwa akiatenda hizo nini. Hizo meetings za lawyer ni nini. Mimi sioni shida hapo, hafai kushikwa. Maybe tu wamsamehe tu, hafai kushikwa juu mimi sioni makosa hapo.
Mimi naitwa Omandi Brian. Mimi ningependa kusema kwamba huyo kijana ni jamaa mwerefu. So tunataka kumpea support, kumpeleka shule angalau wasome ili aweze kusaidia, kwa sababu si rahisi mtu kushinda kesi 26. Hata wale ambao wamesoma washinde hivyo. Kwa hivyo ni mtu mwerefu, maoni yangu ni apelekwe shule. Hata sisi tutamchangia kama Wakenya, kama ni fedha nataka aende asome.
Kuhusu maoni ya yule lawyer, mimi naona huyo lawyer asifungwe. Kitu ya kwanza amefanya hizo cases na zilikuwa zinaenda successful. Na kama zilikuwa zinaenda successful kumaanisha ni mtu talented, ako na talent. So kitu ya maana ni wampeleka hata shule ama wampatie another chance.
Mimi niko proud na huyo msee. Huyo msee anaonyesha msee anything can be possible. Huyo msee amefake. Anasamanga in this world, anasamanga you fake it until you make it. That guy has fake it and he has made it. Impersonate hiyo hizo zote alikuwa anatokea hizo ma advocate meeting nini na wasio wako in notice. Sasa mimi naweza sema kwa dunia anajua kuna watu tofauti. Ni kuna kitu alifanya labda alichukua ya msee. Sasa hiyo msee akaamua kwa nini kumexpose. Lakini hiyo msee ako talented.
And that's what you had to say right down the streets in regards to the case that is in court of Brian Mwenda, who is alleged to be a fake advocate. And Kipchumba,
Yes.
those are the views of Kenyans.
Yeah.
So two things are coming into focus because many people are applauding him for being a genius.
Yeah.
But what he did, if he is found guilty, is impersonation.
Yeah.
Which is criminal. Right.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts first?
Yes,
From
from the comments of Kenyans. In fact, let me start from the last comment by that gentleman saying that he finished with a quote that sometimes you have to fake it till you make it.
Right.
But that's not the correct position. The correct position is you have to work it until you make it.
Right.
Because here what
No
we are dealing,
shortcuts.
yes, no shortcuts. Because what we are dealing here is a case of very, very high proportions. Not as lightly as I can see a lot of naivety from the people of Kenya and people lauding criminality.
Right.
That's a culture that we as a country should try as much as possible to do away with. Because when you say that a person who has committed an offense is a genius, that is wrong. It shows that there's something wrong with us as a society.
Right.
But somehow they have valid opinions which they are entitled to, because number one, it is always the duty of a client to ensure that when you are being represented, you are represented by a person who holds those qualifications to represent you. Like for instance, an advocate. There are so many ways to establish on whether one is an advocate or not.
Right. So when I have a case,
Yes.
and I'm in need of an advocate,
Yes.
in need of representation,
Exactly.
what do I ask for?
First, number one, you just have to ask for his full names. For instance, you can ask what's your full names. I'll tell you my name is Wakili, I'll fax it, Kipchumba Nyorsok. And then there's a website that has been created, the LSK portal. Right. You go there and then there's an advocate search. In fact, they're divided into two. There's an advanced search and a simple search.
Right.
A simple search, you just put a name. So if you search somebody like maybe you know my two names, Kipchumba Nyorsok, it'll just bring all the Kipchumba Nyorsoks that are there. So for you, since you've seen me, there's a pictorial of myself there that you can see.
I think
And
by the
then-
end of this show,
yes,
I'll reveal to our viewers.
exactly. And then number two, there's now the advanced search.
Okay.
So once you're being admitted to the bar and you sign the role of advocate, as I intimated earlier, you are given a very specific number. It's called a P105 number. Each and every advocate has that number.
Right.
So the advanced search requires you to put the P105 number. And remember, for you to practice law, you must be active. There are two statuses. So when you search, it will bring the status of that person. It will be either active, inactive, or suspended, or struck out.
Right.
Struck out is an advocate who has maybe committed gross offense, so that
can no longer
practice,
okay.
but is an advocate, and then suspended, maybe has a disciplinary issue, and then he was suspended maybe for a certain period of time, or maybe as somebody has gone abroad to study, then his status is pending, so that one will be suspended. And then now there's inactive, is a person who has not renewed. There's a amount of money each advocate is required to pay. So if you have not...
After how long?
After every year. So
okay.
the practicing year of this year ends in December.
Right.
So each and every advocate who intends to practice in 2024 has to do that application in December.
Right.
So that in 2024 you can be active.
Okay.
So
that's our version of the press card that is renewed.
Exactly. So you as a client who wants legal services, you are given all those options. They are there. Number two, you can ask for their practicing certificate. But now for Brian Mwenda's case is special, because Brian Mwenda had all those information to him.
Right.
Because for him, his was a gross conduct, because allegedly it is said that he went and forged or entered into the system and compromised the system of LSK and actually hacked into the credential of another advocate.
Right.
And then that advocate now, when he wanted to renew his certificate, now discovered that his identity had been stolen.
Okay.
So for Mwenda's case, he was in the portal.
Right.
That's what now makes it so gross. And another thing is that he had gone there, he had taken the P105 number of another advocate who was not active at that time.
Speaking of that,
yes.
Before we get into the details of the charges,
yes.
the 6 counts
yes.
leveled against him,
yeah.
then let's generally talk about the offense of personation.
Yes.
According to the Penal Code section 382.
382, yeah.
Right. I know there's a lot of reading that lawyers do. That's why
yes.
Kenyans are sort of impressed
yes.
by how much he could do if he didn't go through a law degree.
Yeah.
As well as the Kenya School of Law.
The ATP program, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of reading, and even just getting ready for this show, it's not easy peasy.
Exactly.
So the Penal Code section 382, offense of personation.
Yes.
So it says there, 1, any person who with intent to defraud any person falsely represents himself to be some other person, living or dead, is guilty of a misdemeanor.
Yes.
And then the second part, if the representation is that the offender is a person entitled by will or operation of law to any specific property, and he commits the offense to obtain such property or possession thereof, he is liable to imprisonment of 7 years.
Yes.
So, impersonation, it can be any profession. Let's just start from there.
It can be any profession.
Right.
In fact, the way the wording of it does not even mention law or
right.
medicine. It can be any profession, even journalism.
Right.
I do understand that you have like a database that is being maintained
yes,
for journalism.
You
exactly.
can look me up.
Yes.
I'm
so,
legit.
Yes. All the professions, and because maybe we could have even started by distinguishing between a career and a profession,
right?
Because those are two different things. For a profession, there's a standard way of getting into that profession. There are certain requirements which are very stringent. There are entry requirements, and like a career, like a musical career or an acting career, they do not have those stringent requirements for you to enter that field. So, for a profession, for any profession, doctor, lawyer, journalist, accountants,
right.
They all have their own code of conduct. So that applies all across of those professional bodies.
Right.
Yes.
And so the imprisonment of up to 7 years.
Yes.
So what determines
yes.
how long a sentence can be when a person is found guilty of personation?
So what determines is that, of course, the language of the statute itself. You find that there are some kind of punishments that it gives a minimum and a maximum sentence,
right.
And some they also go ahead and even give they fine you or something of the sort. So it depends on the wording of the statute. Like the one that you've read now is 7 years. So when you are found guilty, the court has no discretion at all,
right?
To whether it just have to punish you for that 7 years.
Right.
So it depends on the wording of the statute, and also sometimes where we have the minimum and the maximum sentencing, we look at the gravity of the offense. How grave was it that you committed this offense? Then that's when now you can be given the higher If it was not grievously done, then you're given a minimum.
Because I know before there has been a case of a fake doctor.
Yes.
Who has since been sentenced.
Yes.
There was a fake policeman.
Yes.
And now there's an alleged fake lawyer.
Advocate, yes.
A fake advocate.
Yes.
And so what would determine, looking at the case that is in court right now, what would inform how long, if found guilty, he would serve a sentence?
And number one, remember, first of all, even the person sitting on that bench is an advocate. You know, for you to become a judge, for you to become a magistrate, you must be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. For you to become a prosecutor, you must be an advocate, and of course the counsel for the defense is also an advocate. So that we get the whole picture in that sense. And then number two is that you look at the charges he's facing. He's facing so many charges. There are 7.
Right.
So there's act of impersonation.
Right.
There are acts of altering and forging a document, because he had a practicing certificate that it was not issued by the LSK, but apparently or allegedly he altered the document. And then we have got issue of identity theft. Stealing the identity of another person. Now the element of impersonation. He went and produced document claiming to be the real Mwenda Thigwa. So what determines is all those acts and the number of charges that it's facing, but each charge will be determined independently.
Independently?
Yes.
And so can we perhaps tell a maximum sentence given the accounts?
Yes, you can.
That is being charged with.
You can just by looking at the charges that he's serving 7, and the list of it is around 3 years. So you do 7 times 3. So you get
and legally then, if one is found guilty of impersonation, depending on the discipline, or could they go back to school, study law, study medicine, do whatever it takes to be a police officer?
Now, where the problem comes in is because, a professional body is governed by some ethics.
Right.
So in the case of Brian Mwenda, if found guilty, it's unfortunate for him, he'll never become an advocate. Right. Because there are some ethical steps that you have to pass. When you're applying to become an advocate, you are supposed to be gazetted for a certain period.
Right.
So somebody can raise an objection. The LSK are also given time to scrutinize the documents that you're going to present, just like medicine. So at this point already you've tainted the ethics part of it.
Right.
So to that end, it is very unlikely and very unfortunate that if you do such things that we can see these people are doing, either be it a doctor, be it a journalist, be it an advocate, it is likely that you will not even pass to the level of a degree, because somebody just go to court and challenge.
Right.
Yes.
And many conversations and reactions just arising from this case, and critics then saying it makes us wonder what importance is our education if someone can then walk into court, our judges, the judicial system, perhaps failing not to identify that this person should not be legally in the court. What do you make of, I know you've gone through the program, you've gone through the LLB, and then to the Kenya School of Law,
the pupillage, and then the admission,
Right.
Yeah.
So did it get you questioning perhaps our education system?
No, it's not about our educational system. Our educational system is just perfect.
Right.
The problem is the person. The problem is the criminal. Because now, when you appear before the judge in a very fancy suit and very good, well-refined English, of course you introduce yourself. And I'm telling you, for this Brian case, it was very gross because he was in the system.
Right.
So by the time somebody else comes to discover, in fact, the advocate who discovered was a counterpart who was going through the pleadings that he had filed in court, and he saw that these pleadings do not look like that of an advocate.
Right.
So he went to the system and checked. But coincidentally, that now the gentleman that Brian is allegedly to have stolen the identity, was in the process of applying for his PC. Remember, there are certain advocates who are not required to take out a PC. If you work in the judiciary, if you are a judicial officer, whether a judge or a magistrate, you are an advocate, yes, but you are not required to renew your certificate. If you work in the office of the Attorney General, because you are not supposed to practice law outside your employment, because they are entitled to non-practice allowances, then they are not allowed to take out a practicing certificate, so they are not supposed to pay. So the person who was impersonated, in this case now the real Brian Mwenda Thigwa, was under contract in the AG's office. So when now the contract expired, he didn't need to. Once he was just admitted, he just signed his contract and then started working for AG for a period of 3 years. So his contract came to expire just a few months ago. So when he was now trying now to renew his practice because contract is has expired in the AG's office, that's when he realized that it's like somebody had already hacked into his system. So he started following up by writing emails and so on and so forth. And then now it became apparent that
was made.
Exactly. So for Brian Mwenda's case, it was very difficult because advocates are everywhere. He had the advocate's ID. He did have the PC allegedly. He was in the system apparently. So even if a judge could have asked for his P105 number, the judge could have just recorded it down, and maybe search, when he goes to search, he sees, no, it is there, his name is there. And then he went even to an extent to put his picture inside there. So now it was that gross. So we really get disheartened when you see Kenyans and some political class of people coming out and defending such kind of
that criminality. You called it a lot of naivety.
Yes.
Because then it's sort of glorifying
criminality. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then, if he is found
guilty,
innocent,
is
there a possibility?
Yes, there's a possibility, of course. Yeah, we know we are in a country that we have a high regard to rule of law. He has the right to counsel, he has the right to be heard, as espoused in Article 50 of the Constitution. Yes, so he is found not guilty, then the society is vindicated, or is vindicated, and he can be allowed to practice. But record shows he never went to any law school. You know, you were saying that he was in Strathmore Law. He never went for an LLB course. There's no way you can go to a Kenya School of Law. There are no classmates who are saying that, no, I knew this gentleman from my classmate. You know, for me, I have a lot of friends, like Jeff Koech, who are with him, is your friend also. Yeah, the Kenya School of Law, and at my LLB level, we know each other. You know, it's a very small profession. So coming out and saying that nobody has come out and said this guy was my classmate at the Kenya School of Law. Nobody has come out and said that this guy was in Strathmore Law School, a very wonderful school of international repute. Nobody has come out to say that he was my classmate.
Very, very much like the cases we get during the time of elections.
Elections, exactly.
Of politicians.
Yes.
No one.
But now they have been.
Yeah,
exactly. But at least the judiciary has helped them. The court has said you don't need to have a degree to become a governor. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so for these cases.
Yes.
That he represented.
Yes.
So then what happens?
So Nelima, first of all, I'm very shocked with the statistics. I don't know where the statistics comes from. I don't know whether the media has done it.
We have not substantiated.
Yes, exactly. That. So it's alleged.
Right.
It takes quite a time for a case to be concluded. Right. Not by design, but because of the nature of cases that we have. We have so many cases. The gentleman allegedly was admitted in the year 2022, just last year.
So in a period of 1 year.
Yes. How can you conclude a case within 26 cases for that matter within that short period of time? Right. So I think those are just hype. People who are just hyper about it. But there are consequences. For one, of course, now for him is going to face the criminal charges, and also for the clients that he did represent, that any document that he wrote to the court purporting to be an advocate, any submission he made orally, remember our courts are a court of record, so whenever you speak, they record. So all those things can be expunged from the record. Okay. So it exposes.
So does that mean the cases will start again? What exactly does that mean if the representation was not legal?
Yes, it means that whatever he made, be it an application, be it oral or be it written, they expire, they are nullity.
Because now there is it's highly unlikely that there is a case that was completed between
exactly between the
time he was admitted,
allegedly admitted.
Right.
So with that, then the documents, the advocate, the counterpart who was on the other side can apply to the court or the court on its own motion. Now that it has come to public limelight, can go and expand those documents. So it leaves his clients, quote unquote, in a very very dire situation. I see people referring him to micros. I don't know. They have inspector suits.
Oh, the suits.
Yes, but if you've had a chance to see suits, also micros paid for his criminality. He was charged in court in the movie.
Right. So an offense is an offense.
It's an offense, and it can never be justified. We should not be that kind of a society that we glorify or we hype,
Right.
criminality.
And whose responsibility is it then if an advocate walks into court?
Yes.
Are they required to provide any credentials?
So as an advocate, when you appear before a court of law, number one,
Right.
it is, you take an oath on office and say that you undertake to uphold the rule of law. So by that virtue, then it's assumed that, an advocate, you are coming here, you come with a very high level of standard.
Right.
So we do not expect an advocate to come and lie. So normally, we operate in that kind of environment that we have trust that, my counterpart is the one appearing. But the duty, when you appear before a court of law, you introduce yourself. You give your two names. In fact, they are very tough magistrates and judges who will not take less than two names. You have to say, like for me, I have to say my name is Alfaxid Kipchumba Nyorsok or Alfaxid Nyorsok. So that the record is very clear.
Right.
But if you go to the Superior Court, that's now the High Court and the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, before the court session starts, every advocate is given a sheet of paper to write your name, to write your P105 number, and then you're supposed to submit. So there are no systems per se
Right.
to regulate an advocate when you're appearing. The only thing that you rely on is that you just have to state your name, and then you proceed from there. But also, some of us who are in practice, when we are served with pleadings, when you are writing your pleadings, you are supposed to write your P105 number. Of course, after putting your address, drawn and filed by, you are supposed to write your P105 number. Every certificate, practicing
that's really your identity.
Yes, exactly. Every practicing certificate has a practice number for that year.
Right.
So you are supposed to note it down there. So they're supposed to be in part of your pleadings. But for Brian, I'm telling you, it was very gross because he had all those information.
Right.
Yes.
Because of now the alleged identity theft.
Exactly. For him, they were there.
So you had all the...
Exactly.
Right.
But also, we as counterparts, when we are dealing, of course, we know not all of us are quite honest. We normally go that further, because if you file a document that is not properly done by an advocate, then that document can be expunged from the court proceeding.
Okay.
So sometimes if you find you really want to win a case even before going there, you have to look for those to search for an advocate. If the advocate is not there, then it's a field day for you. That's how the document can be expunged. For me, I had an incident whereby I got instructions from a certain union, and then my counterpart, who was on the other side, had not taken out his PC. So I raised the issue in the court. The court, of course, expunged whatever he had submitted in court, and he was not required to come. In fact, but until later, when now he went on and to renew his certificate, that's why now he was allowed. But it was an issue of gross misconduct on his part.
Right.
Yes.
And this is a very timely conversation.
Yes.
And we do have to wind up. But then now, since we live every day amongst different people,
exactly,
then how can people just be more alert when they're dealing with perhaps not just advocates
but other professions? Yes.
Other professions as well.
Exactly.
What are these questions that we're supposed to ask?
Number one is that what kind of services do you want as a consumer? Do you just want a service just for the sake of it, or do you want a service that at the end of the day you'll be proud? Because if, for instance, an advocate, if I'm applying for a tender for a certain company, the companies are very vigilant. There are some documents they do ask for each and every advocate. And even right now when you walk into a pharmacy, you know, you have to confirm whether that pharmacy is registered, because you can go there and maybe the person who is attending to you is a quack or is not qualified. There's some certain numbers you're supposed to send. When
and
somebody
there's a lot
comes,
of over-the-counter that we do.
Exactly.
I'm feeling this and this.
Yes.
My head.
Yes, and you're telling a student somewhere, a Form 4 student,
Right.
those kind of things. And you know, medical issues are very, very confidential. So when you want to fix your electricity, you know, the person who's coming to fix your house, you know, they have some identity. A police officer, when a police officer is arresting you, they are required to produce their ID. We don't have time to check those IDs, but we should. So it's a problem with us as the society, but let these cases now make us to be more vigilant.
So it's for us to demand more.
More, exactly.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we fix our bulbs, sometimes we fix our sink when the water
clogs.
That doesn't make you a plumber. Neither than fixing your bulb and then it light. That does not make you an electrician.
Right.
So if you achieving to fix a bulb and it lights up, you've achieved that kind of maybe electrical milestone, but that does not make you. That does not. So in this case, they are saying that, you know, this guy has won cases. So by virtue that he has won cases, then it means that he's qualified. No. Or a doctor was practiced, I don't know, for 16 years. I don't know. No, that does not make him a doctor, because these professions are of very high moral authority, and they have a lot of ethical issues, because the kind of services that these people offer, they are very specialized. Right. That is why you have to be very, very
So
vigilant.
there are requirements.
There are requirements.
Yeah, and there are rules to follow.
And there are very stringent rules. We really toiled for us to be here. For you to be called an advocate, we really struggle. It's not an easy thing, because the rules have been put there to be tough deliberately. Right. Yes.
You see, if we don't have rules, then we are savages.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll all just do what we want to do.
Yes. And I saw some a statement by the Kotu Secretary General about, and you know, recognition of I don't know what. But we went and checked. In fact, Atwoli himself had hired a quack.
Right.
Some few years back. That's why he's so very bitter with our legal profession. But that should not be the way that we are supposed to work as a society. We should not glorify theft of identity, because now the issues of the right to privacy are starting now to recur. Because right now the LSK has now to go to the drawing board and ask whether the information of us advocates are very safe, because right now we now feel like maybe somebody has gone somewhere and picked my name and hacked the
used
system.
it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
I believe we can have more time for this conversation next time. But thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Kipchumba Nyorsok, advocate of the High Court. I don't know, you can keep up with me across our social media platforms at Lookuptv on Twitter, Lookuptv on Facebook, and Lookuptv on our YouTube channel. Tonight's conversation right here on Legally Speaking has been impersonation. And of course, this has been brought about in light of the case that is in court of Brian Mwenda, who is alleged to be a fake advocate. But let's keep the conversation going. It's a never-ending subject. We'll be following that case closely right here on Lookuptv, and we'll be giving you updates up to the point where there is a verdict. But thank you so much for being part of the conversation. I am Nancy Nalima. Our sign language for tonight has been Felista Adundo. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.